Let's get perspective now from Republican Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina. Congresswoman, thanks for being with us. You heard President Zelenskyy liken the constant bombardment of Ukraine to attacks on Pearl Harbor, 9/11. I'm wondering what you thought about his speech to Congress and what your thoughts were on it.
Well, I will tell you, Anderson, that there was not a dry eye in the House this morning, in particular when President Zelenskyy showed the reel of the murders that were happening to women and children on the hands of Vladimir Putin and the Russian forces that have invaded Ukraine and are committing atrocious war crimes and human rights abuses. It was devastating to watch this morning, and to see the courage from President Zelenskyy. He is a worldwide hero, and to hear him talk about the courage of the Ukrainian people who are fighting for freedom and fighting for democracy, the same things that the American people I oftentimes take for granted here at home, but they're fighting for the same freedoms and democracy that we have here, and it was heart-wrenching to watch and hear his words today.
There obviously, he continually calls for closing the skies, as he says, which could reference a no-fly zone. Also, obviously, he is very concerned about Russian artillery, which continues to pound, at times, residential buildings. What is your position on the idea of some sort of a no-fly zone?
Well, a no-fly zone is a clear escalation of war, and what we don't want to have is World War III. Putin has already threatened to use nuclear warheads against us and our allies and anybody else that intervenes here. And when you talk about closing the airspace, for example, last week it was in the news about the Polish MiG jets, but only about half of those 27 jets were actually operable. And to actually close the airspace over Ukraine, you would need hundreds of jets that could withstand the force of an S-400 that Russia has laid on the lands of Belarus. And so anything within 200 miles can hit aircraft. And so you need F-35s, F-22s, but hundreds of them. And Putin would see that as a clear escalation of war by NATO, by the United States. And World War III is not what people want. And one of the other things that President Zelenskyy asked for today were greater, broader sanctions packages. And we need to do that. We need to choke Putin. We need to choke the economy that he has so he can't fund the continuation of this invasion of Ukraine, and that he should not be doing deals with China or anyone else. We need to make sure that that does not happen. But the aid that we voted on last week, the aid that President Biden is sending them today, continuing to give them defense equipment, including the S-300, so they can have an air defense system against what Russia is doing. These are all steps in the right direction, and I know it cannot happen fast enough, but it's happening about as fast as it can right now.
President Biden labeled Vladimir Putin a war criminal today. You have said the same just now. Mm-hmm. How do you think Vladimir Putin should be held accountable for that? The ICC chief prosecutor, I talked to him today, he's on the ground here. He has started an investigation, but it is a complex process. And obviously, even if there are charges against somebody like Vladimir Putin, bringing him into a courtroom is a whole other matter.
Well, it is a complicated and prolonged position to be in, but we should charge him with war crimes. What he's done is illegal. It's devastating. It's murder. You're seeing, I heard a story today about Ukrainians in line to get bread who were shelled and artillery dropped on them and they were shot to death. And that's just wrong. I mean, there's no one in the world, and as much as I hate social media and seeing this, but one of the things that has been effective here is Ukraine's showing the footage of what's going on. It has brought the world together against Putin, against his regime. And, when 2008, when Georgia happened, they rolled over in about 12 days. When Crimea happened, it was about a month and 6 days. But what social media has done is the entire world has seen these atrocities, these war crimes unfold in real time on Twitter and TikTok. And it has brought the world together to move faster, more effectively, to help the Ukrainian people fight for their freedom, for their democracy, and for their country.
Yeah, no one in the world, except perhaps, I guess, Russian citizens, can claim that they don't know what is happening in Ukraine. As you said, the world is watching this. Congresswoman Nancy Mace, appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you, and stay safe, Anderson.